So being license educated and being real estate investor educated are two different things.
What's going on, guys? This is Daniel from the Kwak Brothers, and I have with me again Mr.
Johnny D.
Johnny D. And John, do me a favor, man. I feel like last video we didn't really get to highlight some of your accomplishments and achievements of what you've done in your real estate. And I think after you guys listen, you guys definitely would want to tune in and say, whoa, I got to learn from this guy. So Johnny, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I just, been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I know I don't look that old, right? I keep saying that. But bought a lot of apartment units. I think that's been my focus early on in my career. Now it's a little bit different. I've done in that space, real estate investing. I've done apartments and office buildings, and create a restaurant from scratch, and just a bunch of different things. And the other side of the entrepreneurial scenario is everything from an education company to, like I said, the restaurant business to now marketing and real estate brokerage, which is where we're at here today, property management. So it keeps us busy for sure.
Right on. And speaking of brokerage, we have a hot topic that's been in our group and among a lot of different audiences. Should you get a real estate license if you want to make money in real estate? So Johnny, I want to hear your initial thoughts on that.
It's a really good question, and I think it deserves a really good answer. So hopefully I'm there with you guys. First of all, I think you've got to ask what you want to do. So if you're a real estate if you're a person that's not involved in real estate and you're saying, hey, I want to do real estate being a real estate agent for my career, then that's a different scenario than if you were a real estate investor and you're asking the question, would a license give me a better advantage in the marketplace with my competition? So I think you've got to really ask yourself some questions, because being a licensed agent is certainly a lot of work. It's a lot of effort and time and money, energy, all of those things that you're going to have to invest. And so if you're going to invest something, you want to make sure you get a what?
A return.
A return.
Absolutely.
And you just need to ask, what type of return am I expecting? So with that being said, I think you're probably focused in on real estate investors, right? I don't think it's needed. As a real estate investor myself, I don't think having a license is necessarily needed. Now, my wife, who was just in here, Heather, may say something different to that, but I think that it's not, you don't get a better advantage or disadvantage. Sometimes I think it maybe is a disadvantage. Somebody would not give you all the information because they think you know more, but really, I think real estate investors in general know more about real estate than your average agent walking the streets. I'm not saying, all agents are not smart or intelligent. I just don't think they know a lot about real estate in general. I think they know about real estate law because that's what they go through with their licensing in school. But when you're talking things like cap rates and is this a good investment for me to buy, and cash return on investment and all those things, I don't think they know that.
So
it is a good conversation starter. What do you do? I'm in real estate. Are you an agent?
Yeah.
Yes, I am an agent. That's one of the things I do, but I'm also a real estate investor. I build buildings. I have apartment buildings that I own, that type of thing. It's a good start.
Right on. Yeah, I love that. That's actually really, really cool. So walk us through. Let's dissect this a little bit. So why don't you kind of walk us through what are some pros of having a real estate license? Let's say you want to, because a lot of people in our group and different audiences, right, that we both share, they want to learn how to flip and they want to learn how to hold rentals, and that's mainly what I hear. So what are some pros with having a license with somebody that wants to do that? Yeah,
pros are, I think number one, it's a good conversation starter. Are you in real estate? So when somebody says, well, what do you do? That's, by the way, that's the number one question that people ask when you're in a kind of a networking environment. Hey, what do you do? And I have recently flipped that around over the last year, and I'll say, where are you from?
Oh, okay.
So instead of what do you do, I'll say, hey man, where are you from? And the reason that I like that better is because I'm looking for rapport. I want to develop rapport in my networking. And sometimes when you say, well, what do you do?
Yeah, it's very routine.
Yeah, it's very routine, and you're just thinking about the money. But when I say, hey, where are you from? You're going to say what?
Well, I'm from Chicago.
You're from Chicago. Great. I grew up in Chicago. Where in Chicago did you grow up?
Well, I grew up, right, exactly. Yeah,
you know what I mean? So anyway, we go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
So a pro is, number one, it's a conversation starter. Number two, I would have said 5-10 years ago that it gives you access to properties that the non-real estate agents don't get, but with technology, as we keep talking here, that's just not the case anymore. I mean, you really can find what's on the MLS without being a licensed agent. So I do think a pro, though, is you do understand real estate law a little bit better.
Okay.
You do get some training on, contracts and things like that. So I think that's a pro. I guess a third one would be is that you really have the opportunity to build your network a little bit more. So even though it's a conversation starter, I think that's short term. Long term is what you're doing to build your network. And your network's important to market to communicate to, for business leads. Hey, I'm an investor. I've got cash ready to go. I'm looking for, a 10-unit apartment building in Bronzeville, neighborhood of Chicago, that type of thing.
Yeah, and would it also be fair to say, because one of the common questions that I get whenever I start conversations with people about real estate is they say, well, do you have a license? Right? Because that's kind of the common, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, right? Your everyday person, that's what they think in regards to somebody who's in real estate, somebody who's got a license.
Yeah.
Right? So walk us through, what are some cons, right, to the person who wants to flip and hold rentals? What are some cons to holding a license?
Number one is you're held to a higher standard by the public and by government authorities, the state, for instance, licensing board. So you're held to a higher standard. I don't think that's a bad thing, but sometimes, I think the standards are a little bit detrimental to a real estate investor without doing anything wrong. For instance, you have to state when you're dealing with somebody as a real estate investment deal, I have to state to you that I'm licensed.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so is there any harm in stating that I'm not licensed? Well, I think every day, no, there's not really, but the law makes you state that. And if you were a mom and pop selling a house and I'm not representing you as an agent, right? There's no agency relationship here. By me saying, hey, I just want to let you know I'm a licensed agent with real estate. And if you didn't know much about that, you might say, well, why is he telling me about it? He's licensed. Does he know more than me? Does he know something about this deal I don't? And it could skew the deal a little bit. And again, that's what the law says. And that's one example of maybe a con that I think would be an issue. The second example, or a second con, would be it's expensive. It's expensive to hold your license. It's expensive not only from a monetary standpoint, but time. For instance, they mandate that you do continuing education, depending on what state you're in, every year, every other year. And that takes a lot of time away. I'm always thinking about, my day and, is this on a segment of my day I'm making money? Well, continuing education may be an area where you're spending 3-4 days a year in class or online and not making making activities. Or did I say that wrong?
Money making activities.
Money making activities.
MMA.
That's better.
There you go.
MMA. Money making activities. You should be thinking about that all the time. It's also expensive to join an MLS. And to join a real estate investing associate or a real estate association like the Chicago Association of Realtors, for instance. And I'm not picking on Chicago. It could be St. Louis, it could be Los Angeles, but it's expensive to join those. And I also think that it's a little bit of there's a little bit of a monopoly going on there in real estate. In real estate, when you go get your license, one of the things they talk about is antitrust laws. You know, they don't want a monopoly going on between the real estate agency we have here and Century 21 down the block. Right? We don't want to control prices. We couldn't, you know, we couldn't collude with another agent and say, you know, we're only going to charge 5% or 6% commission on every deal. We're going to do this together. That would be against the law. But associations, you have to join them. Like if you get your license and you want to get in the MLS, you've got to join the association. There's only one in that area in most cases. That is what?
It's a monopoly.
It sounds like it.
It sounds like a monopoly.
Anyway, it's a and I'm not picking on those. I'm just saying it's expensive and a lot of investment there. So those are some cons.
Very cool. Very cool. And just final overall thoughts on getting a license, and let me say this. Let's put this question in this context. I meet a lot of young people who want to get in real estate investing. You know, they watch HGTV or they watch a lot of people, because let's be real, John, everybody and their brother right now wants to get into some real estate. But I meet a lot of young people, you know, from 17 to 19, even my age of 24, 23. They want to get into real estate and they're really contemplating, well, I don't know too much about real estate, so I want to go get my license to get educated. What are your thoughts on that?
So being licensed educated and being real estate investor educated are two different things. And I think a lot of people combine those into one. They're completely separate. It's like learning to be a diesel mechanic and learning how to drive a race car. Two different things. They have to both do with vehicles, but they're two different things. And I think today, if you want to do that, you've got to ask the question of, if I'm going to invest time, energy, and money, what's my return? And what is going to define my return? So if you're a real estate, you want to change your career and be a real estate agent and sell houses, apartment buildings, grocery stores, churches, and you want to do that for a living, then get your license. For sure, you're going to need your license if you make a commission from selling properties that other people own. That's by law. If you're a real estate investor, you should probably ask the question, what's my return on investment if I get my license? I think in most cases, not every case, but most cases, that return is really not that high. Again, I'm not saying you have to or you shouldn't, but I'm just saying measure your return.
Well, hello there. You made it to the end of this video, which means you loved the video, you liked what you saw. If you want to see more awesome real estate investing videos and podcasts in the future, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to get more notification about our next videos.